Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tuesday Takeaways. Today, I have Hannah with me, and we're going to be chatting about, basically clearing fears, making bold decisions, like really quantum leaping in your business, in your income, everything. And I think it's a very interesting topic, especially with, everything that's going around globally. And, the beginning of the year and, the desires that we have and like, everyone wants to kind of jump into the new year feeling really audacious and bold and moving forward, quantum leaping. So let's talk about how to clear all of that away with one of my favorite practices, which is EFT tapping. So before we dive into the topic and everything, Hannah, will you please introduce yourself to the audience and let us know who you are, what you do?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Hanna Proctor. I am a certified master EFT practitioner. I'm obsessed with it because it saved my life, you could say. It keeps me from falling off the cliff of
Yeah.
fear and all that fun stuff. So, EFT has been a real big game changer for me and everything that I do in my business and my parenting and self care, everything. And I also call myself an embodiment coach because I believe that's everything. Is just bringing it back
Absolutely.
into the body, learning to actually
Mhm.
fucking be here.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm. And
yeah.
that's the big thing, right? Like having that bottom up approach. And like I love
Mhm.
that this kind of revolution, so to say, in the coaching space happened, right? And we really realize how important it is to go bottom up. And one of the reasons, and I'm assuming it's the same for you, that one of the reasons why I love EFT is because it's a psychosomatic approach. It's not
Yeah.
just one or the other, it's both. So we're
Yes.
working on the nervous system and calming it down with the tapping, right, on the meridian
Mhm.
points. And at the same time, we're kind of brainwashing ourselves, into
Oh, yeah.
any positive affirmations that we have, or we're going through a full blown process and clearing away fear, anger, shame, guilt, everything, right? And
Yep.
liberating ourselves, right? It's called the emotional freedom technique. So,
Oh,
any
yeah.
emotion that is kind of standing in your way, EFT is there to help clear it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about what you said there, Hannah, about how it saved your life. Like what was your kind of, let's call it maybe the emotional state or the self concept that you had before and where you're right now? Like how has EFT helped you make that shift? Like what have you cleared along the way? Why do you say that it kind of saved your life?
'Cause I feel everything. I feel mine, I feel theirs, I feel all of it. I definitely consider myself to be empathetic or a highly sensitive person, whatever label you wanna put on it, but the bottom line is I feel way more than I think I can handle feeling.
Hmm.
And, it's when you have that kind of sensitivity and you don't have, like, any kind of understanding of it, especially growing up
Hmm.
in heavy environments, it can really mess with your sense of identity, because
Hmm.
ultimately, when you feel things as deeply as we can feel them, it's hard to separate yourself from that. And so I just had a lot of powerlessness. I always had this, like, sense of helplessness, like, I can't help myself, there's nothing I can do for myself, like, there's this obstacle, this thing, that thing, and, just being on a journey, I guess I call it my spiritual awakening journey, but just, where everything comes into question, everything.
Hmm.
It I learned that it is me. I am in my way. So, I think EFT, it really helped me clear a lot of that emotional tension that was keeping my mind locked into fearful thinking. 'Cause I feel like that's
Hmm.
what really holds most of us back is we don't know how to take a step outside of those thoughts, outside of that rampage in our head, the monkey mind, all that stuff, enough to feel what's happening in the body in a way that can let it kind of flow out. 'Cause it just
Yeah.
feels like it loops and loops and loops, but really it's the thoughts that are looping, the emotion's
Yes.
trying to flow, and we're just not letting
Yes.
it?
Ooh, yes, absolutely. I think I forgot to check your human design before this. Do you know your human design? Do you
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
open or defined emotional? Open.
Open everything except for my
Oh,
root and my spleen. I'm a
there you go.
projector. Yeah.
Okay, open emotional. I was gonna guess that because you said like, "Oh, I'm absorbing from everyone," and all. I'm like, "Okay, open
Yeah.
emotional or
Yep.
undefined." Not to get into the details and the differences between the two, but anyways, I'm a defined one, and so I
Okay.
have a very defined emotional center. Only two gates are basically missing in there to be fully defined, And so I go through all of the emotional waves
Mhm.
and experience them. And I go through the big, like crashes, like climbs and crashes, to the little ones, to the moodiness, to everything, right? And
Yeah.
so that for me was an issue, right? Like really understanding how to not just manage my emotions, but like really work with my emotions,
Mhm.
just be present with them, like transform them, alchemize them, right?
Mhm.
And also highly sensitive person. I sometimes feel like I have that kind of open emotional center in some ways because like I care a lot about the people around me and their
Yeah.
emotions and all of that. I don't absorb as much as you do. It's a kind of a different experience, but it impacts me, right? And I care. And so
Mhm.
that's a little bit of the trauma from my background. But
Yeah.
that freedom that it provides, like, I think really wanna start off with that because that is the thing that absolutely transformed my life as much as it did yours, and it saved m not I mean, saved my life, but saved my sanity first and foremost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because of the emotional roller coaster, and it's a doozy, like,
Yes.
again, with the world around us as well as, like, being in business, it is an emotional roller coaster of its own, right? And so
It
you're
is.
constantly pushing past your growth edge, right? Your edge of
Mhm.
your comfort zone. And so
Yep.
everything pops up, right? The
Mhm.
fears, the angers, the shame, the guilt, the all of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I want to hear from you. Like, tell us a little bit about how kind of EFT works. I want to take people through basically the rounds, right? And
Okay.
kind of show them how we actually take something that is going on. Let's say, we're having a crash out, we're having a throwing a tantrum, things are not working in our favor, right? And it's like, fuck this. And like, how am I putting all this effort and it's not paying off? And, or this
Yep.
launch is not working, or whatever it is, something went wrong and you're like throwing a tantrum. How
Yeah.
does EFT help with that?
Oh gosh. Okay. So, first of all, I feel like through all the tapping, I've learned a lot, about when it comes to our
Mhm,
emotions and everything. And one of the things I've learned, so I just want to say this first, is
mhm,
I feel like when those things happen, there where it feels like we're being derailed or something, I've learned the hard way to see them as little opportunities in disguise.
yes.
Like these are moments when, oh shit, I am at the edge of myself. I have to either like surrender to the fear and give into that voice in my head, or I have to move through this. And so with
Mhm,
EFT, that's where it changes everything because
yes.
I've learned that the key thing, especially for me and people that I've worked with and talked with about this kind of stuff, it seems to boil down to nervous system safety. And I feel like
Yes.
that's different than like I'm physically unsafe. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
I think there's a little bit of a difference. I feel like nervous system safety, it's so much more nuanced and it's so much more it's affected by so like, more subtle things than we realize. And I
mhm,
feel like in those moments, EFT, it is so powerful because whenever you're just tapping and you're working with your system, and I've studied so many different ways about why it does what it does, but ultimately, it creates this nervous system safety.
mhm,
Even when you're not feeling safe, even when you're raging like a lunatic and you're wanting to punch your computer screen or whatever it is that you're wanting to do, when you take a moment and you stop and you kinda sit with it and you tap, and tapping kind of forces us to do that. You have to sit with what you're feeling. Tapping is not a therapy where that or I don't even know if therapy is the appropriate word to call it, but it's not a resource that allows you to ignore what you're feeling. If you do, it won't work. It just
yeah,
won't, you
exactly,
know? So
exactly.
when you're tapping, it helps your body know like, "Hey, I'm safe right now." So even as I'm feeling this crazy wave of emotion, my body feels safe enough. It knows that it's safe in my nervous system to process it instead of
Yes.
gripping onto it, which is what we do when we don't feel safe. We kind of get into that survival mode and we start gripping and holding on for dear life,
Yeah,
and the body can't let anything go.
yeah,
So tapping helps you relax, even if you don't feel relaxed while you're doing it. You eventually will if you keep going long enough. You'll start
yep,
to want to take a nap by the end of it if you do it long enough, but it makes you feel safe deep down inside where it really counts. So that way you can actually start to relieve that emotional tension that's coming up. And when you do that, you start to realize you didn't even 100% feel exactly how you thought you felt. Like if you were raging in that moment and you're thinking, I'm failing, nothing's working. When you start to relieve that emotional tension just by tapping for a few minutes, it like, the clarity emerges naturally as if it was always there because it was. And it's just the
Yeah.
emotional tension that kinda blocks it and kinda fogs up our windshield, if you will.
Yeah, and the nervous system, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like that's the tapping aspect of it. So when we're doing EFT tapping, we're both tapping and saying things at
Mhm.
the same time,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
voicing out, right? The first round is always like kind of tapping and ranting,
Yep.
venting, like saying what is top of mind, right? And F this and F that, and like
Yep.
exactly how it's on your mind, you let it out so you can
Yep.
really like vent, right? And so as you're tapping, the tapping itself calms down the nervous system, right? It regulates the nervous system, and that's the main thing, right?
Mhm.
Like, we also talked about making good decisions, right? In the headline of this
Yeah.
live, right? Using EFT to make better decisions, and that's the key, really, is that we absolutely scientifically cannot make the best decisions in a dysregulated nervous system state. And so, with the tapping itself, like it regulates the nervous system, right? And
Mhm.
it activates the entirety of your brain finally instead of giving you this kind of a
Mhm.
vision, right? Because you're dysregulated,
That's right.
you finally open up and you can see and
Yeah.
think clear, right? And you can remember, oh my God, I know this person that can help me and this thing I forgot. And
Mhm.
it's like, wow,
Yeah.
right? And I kind of always compare, like, going into the session and after the session, it's like a plane, kind of like going through liftoff, right? And it goes through like not just turbulence but like clouds and thunder
Mm.
and everything, right? And
Mhm.
that's how it feels in the
Yep.
beginning. It feels like you're surrounded by everything and it's chaos, right?
Yeah.
But as you finish, as you go through the process, it's like you end up above the clouds in the clarity, and like all of the stuff is still there, right? The situation is still there, the clouds are still
Mhm.
below you, right? It didn't disappear, but how you're seeing it, right? How you're feeling about it is completely different. And
Mhm.
you can breathe and you can relax, right?
Yep.
And from there, you can make the best decisions, right? You can move
Yep.
forward in the best possible way. You can see the truth instead of, the negative, kind of thinking that your
That's right.
dysregulated nervous system is putting you into, right?
Yep.
So that's exactly like what I love, as you said, about like that first aspect of EFT and that first layer, which is the tapping and the ranting, right? And just finally, before I let you share about this, like the thing that I always tell people is like, yes, you are venting to me, to my friends, right? Who are not doing this work, and I'm like, sure, you're venting right now. If you just tapped and vented at the same time, you would not be so worked up
That's
after
right.
saying everything that you want to say. You would actually calm down your nervous system and
Mhm.
finally feel like I've released, not just vocally, but from my body, right? This pent up energy, right?
Mhm.
But they're just venting and then they finish saying everything that I had to say. And it's like, I still feel the same,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Whereas with EFT, it's like you feel different. And that's why we always start our sessions like, where are you on the scale of 1 to 10 on your anger? It's like 12. Okay. And by the time we get to the final round, like, where are you right now? Like, I don't know, maybe a 3, maybe a 1, maybe a
Yep.
4. It's okay, right? Wherever you are, but it just always kind of goes down. So
Yep.
it's amazing, amazing.
It is amazing, and the more specific you are too, the better. I mean, the more effective it is. And I think that's what I loved most about it because everything that I tried to try to help myself, to try to get myself out of that fear state to the point where I could see past it, which is essentially what
Hmm.
tapping helps you do. Everything kind of it seemed like it would you couldn't necessarily move through it. You kinda had to move around it or you had to try to effort your way out of it. Whereas I feel like EFT, it's more natural. It gives you permission just to be where you are. Like you get to meet yourself where you are. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to force yourself to like slow your breathing down. It's good to, but you don't have to force yourself to slow your breathing down or change your thoughts to feel better. You get
Yeah.
to be in that space, and the tapping alone helps you naturally move to the point where you don't even need to be in it anymore. You don't need to be raging anymore. You don't need to want to fight this person anymore. You don't need to wanna burn the house down because
Hmm.
you're like, "Oh, okay. Alright, I'm actually chill now. It's actually okay. We're gonna be okay, guys. It's okay."
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, yeah, that's the whole point, right? It's like that
Mhm.
liberation that you feel, right, after you go through
Yeah.
the process. And as you said, like, a lot of us, I mean, I think everyone, right, starts off thinking like, how do I sit with my emotions? Like that classic thing, like
Mm.
sit with your emotions, let them
Yeah.
pass. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to do
Yep.
that? Really? Like, we never learned how to
Yeah.
do that, right? And EFT, as you said, is brilliant for that because what you're doing is you're literally just starting the first round of tapping with just venting out what's going on, right? As we said, F this and F that, or I'm scared that this is going to happen. I'm worried that this might,
Mhm.
go down like this, et cetera, right? And then we kind of ease off, right? And then we move into the next round, right? And the following rounds of tapping where we actually come to the real emotion below it, right? And start to unlock those deeper emotions, right? So
Yeah.
let's say, that anger, right? And it's like, okay, let's unlock what's underneath that anger. Oh, well, my boundaries have been crossed, right? I was
Mm.
disrespected or whatever it is, right? And you start to go into the deeper layers, right? And
Mm.
finally, you get to really see, feel, and then express, like, hey, I deserve better. Right. I don't deserve this kind of treatment. Right. Like what they did was
Yep.
wrong. Right. Like
Mhm.
I get to actually see that because I finally cleared away all of the shitty thinking caused by the dysregulation, right? And the illusions and the things. And I can finally really step into that healthy thinking that I know that I should
Mm.
be thinking as, but I just can't access it. You can't because you got to empty up this stuff
That's
first.
right.
And that's why the first rounds are so powerful. We empty the cup and then like you cry out, you yell out whatever you need,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes it's crying, sometimes it's yelling. And then finally, we can step into the healthy thinking, right? And anchor
Yep.
that into our body, right?
Yep. And, I've been in situations where I've had to process something, a fear that was just so overwhelming, and that's where I always kinda go to that "it saved my life" kinda thing,
Mm,
because, there's certain levels of fear that when you get into them, it can be bleak, It can really be like, I wanna crawl out of my skin kinda thing. And, I've had moments with EFT where, like, I've just sat in that feeling, but because I was tapping, I didn't drown,
mm,
I eventually, even though sometimes it takes 2 minutes, sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it
mhm,
takes 20, but it never usually takes too long. But eventually, it's like you break above the water, It's like you weren't breathing, and then it's like suddenly I can breathe again, and it just makes you feel so powerful. It makes you feel so confident in yourself. I mean, I feel like that's why I say this all the time. I'm like, that what you're wanting to feel, all those things that you wanna feel, they are hidden underneath these emotions that you're not processing, that
mhm,
you're clinging to because you don't realize you're clinging to them, because it's
mhm,
scary to face them. And
mhm.
tapping just it's the perfect bridge for that. I mean, I'm so in love with it. I just love it so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, let's talk about those fears, right? Let's talk about like
Mhm.
really how do we clear those fears? Like, one of the things that I love to touch on, with my clients and with my audience is like the fear of judgment, right? It's one of
Mm.
the big things, one of the big blocks towards visibility, right? And so one of the beautiful things, one of the beautiful practices of tapping is like really visualizing yourself, for example, standing on stage and proclaiming like I am fucking amazing at what I do and I
Mhm.
deserve to be paid tens of thousands of dollars for it, right? And I'm the person to hire if you have
Yeah.
this problem or this desire, right? And then seeing what are you thinking the audience is going to respond,
Mm.
right? This is that kind of like setup, right? Visualization that we do in
Yeah.
EFT to conjure up those feelings. And that's a thing, like if you're in the moment, that's as you said, like the moment is the portal to the healing. Like
Mhm.
in the moment that you're scared, in the moment that you want to throw a tantrum, this is the best time to do the tapping,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If you know the process and you can take yourself through the process, right? But then if you're not in it, like you can use visualization like this to conjure up that feeling, right? And
Mhm.
your thoughts and beliefs and everything, and then start tapping on that, right? So like that fear of judgment is like, oh my God, people are gonna be like, oh my, who does she think she is? Like you're very bold, saying that, like, oh, you don't deserve that kind of a money, right? Anything that comes up, we take that and then we tap on that, right?
Mm.
and we move further. So like clearing the fear of judgment, like the fear of receiving or being a burden for others. There's so many things like fear of like, kind of what's going to happen. That's kind of like more anxiety, but still it's like
Yeah.
something bad it might happen, or I might not get the results from this launch and I'm going to embarrass myself, fear of failure, fear of success, like all of those things,
Yep.
right? So tell us about your experiences working with clients and clearing, fears and helping them really like take things up a notch in their business and move past those, fears that were really standing in their way of making those decisions or taking the actions necessary.
Yeah, I think the thing that I find to be most helpful is just being present with it. And I think that's again where tapping is such a powerful tool because it gives you that space. Like when you even if you're driving, I mean, I tap safe
Mhm.
about it, guys, but I do it because it helps me. Sometimes I need to. But I think just when you sit down to really tap on something, you're opening up space and time for yourself to reflect, to notice you. And I think that presence alone and really just seeing yourself in a safe environment, it that right there changes everything. That right there alone, just simply I mean, I'm telling you, sometimes I can just if I'm feeling it or if I'm having if a client of mine is feeling it, we'll tap here, we'll tap here, because this is the karate chop, this is a karate chop. The collarbone part is actually really good for when you feel genuinely just unsafe, and
Yeah,
that feeling is usually at the heart of most things that are tearing us up inside, is, "I just
yeah,
don't feel safe right now."
yeah,
And so for me, it's like just becoming aware of that. Just noticing, "Okay, I don't feel safe right now. I'm really uncomfortable right now. I am scared this is gonna happen." Just looking at it. It's kinda like the observer thing, the observer effect, you
yeah.
know? Zooming out of it and just being with your body in a safe presence. Because I feel like most people who wrestle with fear to the point where it really stops them from taking a step, it's because they didn't have a safe space to feel their feelings. They were taught their feelings were too much, they were not important, or whatever. They were shut down, whatever it is. So I feel like just tapping gives us that opportunity to kind of reparent ourselves too.
Mm,
And it just opens up that space to say, okay, I see me. I see what's happening. It fucking matters. And I'm going to sit here with it and I'm going to be here with it. And the cool thing is when you are doing like a full tapping experience, most of the time you're setting it up and you're saying something like, even though I feel whatever it is, I still deeply and completely love and accept myself. And you can say that all kinds of different ways. But that right there, just being present with it, noticing what you're feeling, calling it out, creating that physiological safety, and then
mhm,
tacking on compassion. That
mm,
right there is like, that'll heal most fears. It might take a couple times. You might have to keep coming back to it, just like you kept coming back to the fear. You
yeah,
just got to keep teaching yourself and showing up with that presence and that safety and
yeah.
just giving it compassion and love. I feel like that's the best thing that's helped me and people I've worked with.
Absolutely, one
Yeah.
gazillion percent, and I talk about this all the time, like how
Yeah.
self-love truly is that portal, right? And it's like you gotta honor yourself, you gotta love yourself, you gotta give yourself that space, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing that I really also love about EFT is like you're calming yourself down with the
Yeah.
tapping so you can sit with the emotions and then you're saying out loud everything that you're thinking and feeling and like believing whatever is going on in here, you're just voicing it out loud. And just that act of hearing it, right? And going through everything. Like that's the thing about fear, for example, or anxiety and some, like shame or all the feelings. It's
Mhm.
like your mind is kind of blocking you from the full experience of
Yep.
it. You kind of glance
Mhm.
at it. It's like, oh, I'm
Yep.
scared this is going to happen. And let me immediately look and distract myself with these other things that I'm going to do, right? The coping mechanisms,
Yep.
whatever they are, right? And so basically, fear remains this big kind of thing that is over you because you never go and look at how silly it is,
Mhm.
right? How stupid it
Yep.
is, how illogical it is. Like if you actually just exclusively just go in and look at the exact fear of what might happen and put it down on paper, right? The worst case scenario, the middle scenario, the lightest scenario, all of it. You're like, in a lot of cases, it's like this is kind of silly, this is not
Mhm.
this might not really happen, right? But in the case of like really bigger fears, right, and true fears like, oh, my house is going to be taken from me, right,
Mm.
I'm not going to have a roof over my head or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Like, yes, we need to calm down those emotions, right? And we need to allow ourselves to really like say out loud, like all of these things might happen and I feel fucking scared,
Yep.
right? And it could cost me a lot. It could
Mhm.
cost me this, and this, and I feel fucking scared about it. But I'm still sitting here with myself and I'm loving myself through it and I'm holding myself through it. And again, guys, the tapping itself just calms you down. It's not like I'm scared of this and you're feeling even more, of that kind of trembling inside of you. It's like you're tapping and you're calming down. It's easing up. It's letting you go. And that makes sitting, so to say, with the emotion feel manageable, right?
Yeah.
And then you said it out loud, you hear it all, and then you can, switch into the next round and go deeper into it and really uncover what is going on and release that, cry it out, whatever it is, and, reach that other point, right?
Yep. And the beautiful thing about tapping is, you get to a point once you process a certain level of that emotional tension, that fear, that pain inside that's making you spiral. The fears kinda all those thoughts, they stop making sense too. I mean, I've gone into it with, like, completely blinded by a fear. Like, I'm like, "There's no I can't see around this. Like, this is fact. This is fucking law, you guys. This is gonna happen.
Mhm.
I can't think of any other way." And then I tap, and then it's like I don't know how to describe it. It just, like, something dissipates, and you're like, "Oh, wait, that it really just doesn't make any sense anymore." And you end up looking at yourself through that lens of compassion. You're like, "Okay, I understand why I thought that might
Mhm.
happen. I understand why that felt so like the only possibility." But really, it's when you zoom out enough, when you just dislodge enough of that emotion, naturally, you don't have to convince yourself of anything. You
Mhm.
just start to understand that it's gonna be okay or
Yeah.
you can handle it. Because I feel like
Mhm.
most of us think that we can't handle certain things because it's a reflection of us not feeling like we can handle our emotions. I feel like those things are very connected and they reflect each other. So the more
Mhm.
that you show yourself, even while you're tapping and you're feeling those heavy feelings, and you prove to yourself, you demonstrate to yourself, I can feel this and be safe. I can feel this and still be loved. I can feel this and nothing bad's gonna happen, because ultimately we think we're gonna be stuck in it forever, I feel like most of the time, so we avoid it. And I do wanna say this though, with tapping, I have noticed one thing. Sometimes the emotion, it does absolutely relax you, almost to the point of wanting to take a nap, I'm not even kidding. But
Mhm.
in the very beginning when you're really facing it, it can bring it up to the surface. It can make it really obvious, and, I've had experiences with people and with myself where it's like it almost feels too intense for a few moments, depending on what it is, you know? Like,
Mhm.
there was one person I did this with, and she had a lot of shame, and as she was tapping, it got worse and worse and worse, like, in her chest, and I was like, "Okay, alright, just keep going, just stay with it," and eventually and she cried and cried and cried, and eventually she was like, "Hey, I feel relaxed now." And it really feels like you were a wet rag that just got wrung out, and now you're just, now you're relaxing on the side of the sink and drying. It's probably a horrible analogy. But it feels like
Good
being
one.
wrung out. And,
Mhm.
the really cool thing and why I'm another reason why I'm obsessed with tapping is because you're not just making yourself feel better in the moment. You're teaching yourself how to have a totally different relationship with your emotions. And on top of that, you're rewiring your brain. You are changing the way that you think. You are changing the structure of your brain with enough tapping. That's why for me, it's like consistency is the most important thing. I didn't get the full benefits of tapping until I was doing it probably every day for, I don't know, months. And now I just do it every day because it helps. But
Right.
it really is about consistency, and it changes the way you relate to your memories, it changes the way you relate to other people, and it gives you a sense of strength that you didn't think you had before, all from being there for yourself, you know? It's crazy.
Absolutely. It's yes, exactly. You compared it to like kind of getting out of the water, right? And I compared it to kind of getting above the clouds and everything.
Yeah.
It really gives you that kind of vantage point, right? And that
Mhm.
objective perspective, right?
Yep.
And it's like that's the thing. Really, that really is the thing. It's like your nervous system is keeping you in this overwhelmed state, right? In this state of fear, in this kind of doom and gloom kind of thinking, right? Because it turned off all the other parts of your brain and it's just in this fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right?
Mhm.
And so it's in this dysregulated state, and it's literally kind of amplifying everything negative, all the threats,
Mhm.
and all you can see is doom and gloom.
Yep.
And so, with the tapping, with the regulating of your nervous system, you finally reach that moment, just like in real life, right? How many times have you in your life thought that, oh my God, this experience is going to be huge and it's going to be overwhelming, and I'm so
Mhm.
anxious and I'm so scared, and whatever it is. And then, even if it's like a bad scenario and the bad scenario happens, after it happens, you're like, okay, it happened. Now I'm just gonna go do this and do that. And, I have this option and that option. And you're kind of handling the situation, right?
Yep.
Whereas before you thought you were gonna die, right?
Yep.
Like you thought that you were gonna die. And so tapping gives you basically this emotional freedom. It puts you in that space, right? Where you feel like, okay, like if I do lose my house, for example, right? Like, okay, like I can do this and I can do that, and all of the resourcefulness kind of comes back
Mhm.
on because your nervous system again, right, is in the resourceful state, right, in the
Right.
good decision making state, and you're like, okay, I can see all of these other options, right, even if this worst case scenario happened, right, and couldn't be avoided, I can now make the best next decision, right? And move through this, not creating more drama, right? More issues, but like actually responding in the best, not reacting, but responding in the
Right.
best possible way, right? To move myself ahead or whatever, right? I
Yep.
need to do. And so that's kind of the beautiful part about it is that it gets you out of, the emotions, and it puts you kind of above from this wise observer perspective, right? It puts you into
Mhm.
that state where you have the kind of objective, detached from the emotions perspective, right? And you can think clearly, level headed, calm, cool, collected, right?
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you need, right? That's
Yep.
exactly what you want. So it's like it's magic. That's what
It
I love
is.
about it. It's
It
true
is.
emotional freedom,
It
right?
really is. It really is. And, I think a key thing that stops most of us in business or anything really is not trusting ourselves. And I feel like, that's my whole thing. I'm so focused on trying to help people rebuild their sense of self-trust because when you don't trust yourself, you're second guessing everything. You're questioning everything. You're questioning every decision. I mean, gosh, I don't know how many times early on when I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I stressed myself into the ground before I ever found tapping. Just trying to make one little tiny decision because I had a poor relationship with myself. Because that's what I was taught, that's what I was modeled, and I feel like I say those things because we don't need to judge it, we don't need to shame ourselves for being wherever we are, like, it's okay. You are where you are, you gotta work with what you got, and it's there for a reason, I think. So, with tapping, by, creating that presence with yourself and giving yourself that compassion and that space to really process and regulate yourself, you start to discern the difference between a thought that you need to trust and a thought you don't need to trust, or a feeling you need to really lean into and a feeling you need to process and let go. You
Mhm.
start to develop that discernment very naturally, and it's not something you have to force because I believe self trust is inherent inside of all of us, and we just got to learn how to develop that relationship with ourselves, especially if it wasn't mirrored to us or taught to us. So
Yeah.
tapping really helps us trust ourselves. It helps us reclaim that sense of authority, that sense of
Mhm.
confidence, that sense of safety that we once projected out onto all these things, or we thought, I have to have this to feel safe. I have to have this approval, this whatever, all this stuff to feel safe or to believe in myself or to trust myself. Tapping helps eliminate all that noise. And
Mhm.
it's just, that's so like, I don't know how to say it. It's just, I think it's not properly valued, the inner experience. I think we're
Mhm.
starting to. I think we're starting to realize the importance of it.
Thankfully. I mean, absolutely thankfully. But yeah, it's that thing, like, as you said, that self-trust, right?
Yeah.
And trust in general. It's like it's created through that relationship, right? That we build with ourselves, and,
Mhm.
through the hard moments where we see that, like, oh, I didn't fall apart, right? Or what I love about this is like, hey, I had this tool in my back pocket and I can pull it out at any time
Mhm.
and go through like the rounds of the topping and just move through this emotion, move through this moment, whatever it is. And just knowing that I have it there, that I will never fall apart, right? That I can clear away any anxiety, fear, anger, whatever it is, right?
Right.
In the moment, like it brings me this sense of empowerment. It's like I'm
Mhm.
indestructible because
Yeah.
the very things that used to destroy me, so to say, before was the emotional overwhelm, right? Was the panic, the anxiety, the fear, the whatever that it would linger on for days and block me from everything. And it's like my whole life is falling apart and I'm making bad decisions because I'm reacting instead of responding, right? And
Mhm.
right. And so with this tool, it's like I can trust that I can move forward. I can trust that I can make the best decision. I can trust that I can get out of my way, right? And clear everything and just move. And knowing that gives you such a sense of power. It's
Mhm.
like I can move through anything
Yep.
in life. Like I am limitless. I am truly emotionally free.
Yeah.
That's why we love this, you know.
Yes.
It's just absolutely incredible, and then again, as you said, like, it builds that relationship with yourself, it builds that
Mhm.
compassion, right? As you go through kinda like different toppings for different emotions, right? And kinda go through the full spectrum, kinda working on some fears, some shame, some anger, some guilt, some whatever, right? All of this stuff, like, you start to really, through the process, through the rounds of topping, develop that compassion
Yep.
because the process itself makes you listen to yourself.
Yep.
It makes you, like, express everything that you wanna express exactly how you wanna express it, right? No sugarcoating anything, like, just say the exact awful words that you wanna say, right? Or
Yep.
whatever they are. And then like really drops you into the true emotions below it, right? And helps you release, like, hey, it's not fair that I'm treated like this. Like, I deserve better than this,
Mhm.
what this person is doing to me, right? And so now, like, you really reconnect with yourself. You really step into that self love, right? And self-worth as well, and it's like, "Oh, now I can, like, F that person. I'm gonna set that
Yep.
boundary," right? Like, why was I scared to set this boundary? If this person does not wanna respect my boundary, I don't even need them in my life, goodbye, right?
There you
Like,
go.
you reach this place where it's like you feel so powerful,
Mhm.
and, like, that's just the magic of EFT. I
Yeah.
love it so much.
And it's crazy, it's so frustrating because it's like, "Oh my god, it was this easy all along. All I had to do is look silly and tap on myself a little bit and talk through my shit. Oh, wow, okay." That's all I had to
Yes.
do.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. Tell me if this was your experience as well. Like, it was too simple for me. It
Yes.
was, like, deceivingly simple. When I first saw
Yep.
EFT, right, when I was in my journey, so, for anyone who doesn't know who's listening to this, I've healed a lot of trauma, PTSD. I've gone through 2 wars in my life, one when I was 4 years old, another one when I was, what was it, 11 years old, ex-Yugoslavia. And so that was trauma on its own. And after that, there was like hyperinflations. We were waiting in lines for like flour and milk, right? And gasoline and things like that, right? We had $1 trillion banknote, right? Like it was crazy. And then I lost my father. He took his life. So like there's a lot of stuff that I had to process, right? And when I was looking for solutions, right, looking for ways to liberate myself from the weight of all of this, I was looking at everything, right? And so many different forms of therapy, right? There was like EMDR and some NLP and EFT and breath work and, everything, right? Everything. Like I'm blessed to have experienced like almost all of the modalities, especially since I work with a lot of, coaches and therapists, etc. So when I first saw EFT, I was like, this is kind of small stuff, like this is
Yep.
not powerful enough. This does not seem like the big bang, right? I'm looking for the biggest bang for my buck. Like I
Yep.
want the most powerful one, right? Like give me that thing. It was EFT. It was actually. It just looks so deceivingly simple. It's like, but I'm just tapping and yapping.
Mhm.
Like that's gonna help me. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, come back to it like so 2 years later, tried it out, right, on some big emotions, and I was shocked at what came out of me. I was shocked at the contrast of how I walked into the session and how I felt and how overwhelmed I was, and how liberated and light and carefree I was after the session. The immediate feelings, right,
Mhm.
that it gave me, right, the immediate feedback, the immediate change inside of both my body and my mind. I was sold. I
Yep.
was like, This is incredible. On top of it, like, you can do it for yourself. Once you understand the process, once you know how to talk through things, like, you have it in your back pocket, and at any moment that something is happening, you can immediately go in and work with the emotion that's there and liberate yourself from it, or move through it, alchemize it, right? And that's, I think there's nothing more powerful than having a tool in your toolbox, right? Like, I don't want to wait wait at night to listen to a hypnosis. Like, I don't want to need an NLP practitioner to take me through the process,
Yep,
right? Or parts integration, internal family systems, or a therapist or whatever. I don't want to wait. I want to do it now in the moment where it's most powerful, because I know that if I can make the change there, everything flips, right? And I can move forward immediately instead of waiting, right? And that's one of the other things that I love so much about it. It's just there for you all the time. You can
yep,
depend on it. And it's so easy, so simple, yet profound.
yep.
So,
I had the same experience though. I found it and then I was like, "Uh-huh.
yeah.
Sure. Sure, that's gonna help me." Me? I don't think so. Yeah, same exact experience until
Mhm.
literally I just got to the point where, like, nothing else was really doing I mean, meditation helped a little bit, it helped kind of
Yeah.
expose some things for me, but it
Yeah.
didn't help me in those day-to-day moments when I was drowning in my mind, and that was
Yeah.
a lot for me. I mean, I do this work because I needed this work.
Yeah.
Just like you said, you went through a bunch of trauma and you need something to pull your head out of that stuff. And, EFT is so powerful in so many different contexts. I mean, I think I was in a heated discussion with someone like a couple weeks back, and the person I was speaking with was being completely irrational and emotional. It is what it is. I just sat back and started tapping. I started tapping and it kept me in myself. It kept me centered in myself. And I also noticed this funny thing that it did. It started translating for me. It's like my brain just like went into another gear, started working in a different way. And it's like everything that I was hearing around me came through as if there was this filter there and it came through and it translated into truth. So it's like where you might hear you're the problem, the EFT kinda kept my mind clear enough to hear, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable in this situation, and I'm projecting this onto you," or whatever, however you wanna spin it, but I feel like in relationships, so this is my primary focus is on relationships, because I feel like so many of us lose ourselves when we're in these connections with people, especially if we don't have a healthy connection to ourselves. And I feel like EFT, it helps us really discern where is my truth in this versus what is maybe being thrown at me or projected
Mhm.
onto me or that I've heard over and over and over again. EFT can really help your mind. Oh my gosh. It can really help your mind just kind of again wipe away the noise. And it really teaches you. I've learned after doing it for probably about 2 years now, every freaking day minus a day here and there. I've learned it shows you that the core truth really isn't the fear, the stress. Like we're our culture tells us worry, you know, worry. If you're not worried about it, you don't care. And really worrying is just negative thinking and rehearsing the worst case scenario. It's a safety strategy. It's a nervous system safety response. And,
Yes.
tapping, when you do it enough consistently, when you show up with yourself enough with it, you start to realize, no, actually, it's what's normal. What's actually normal is peace. It's safety. It's being okay even when things might not look okay. It's being okay and feeling whole and content within myself even if life is chaotic. It's knowing that I can handle it. It's knowing that I'm not given anything that I'm not meant to be able to handle. Like if it's here, if it's in my life, it's in my experience, I have the capacity for it. I might just have to stretch a little outside my comfort zone to realize it. And tapping
Mhm.
just makes that so much easier. So much easier.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Exactly. Not only does it regulate the nervous system, but it also expands our capacity, right, to
Mhm.
take on more. And that's exactly it. Like, if you want to grow in your business, if you want to grow in life, right? But like, business as well as parenting, right, is one big triggering thing. And we need to constantly expand our capacity for
Mhm.
more, right? To take on more visibility, to take on more clients, right?
Yep.
More projections onto ourselves, more responsibility, more money, all of this more, right?
Mhm.
And so it helps us expand that capacity, because, like, oh, now I can handle this stuff that I was looping in for years, right?
Yep.
And now I go beyond it, right? And also with the daily tapping, as you said, right? Like our nervous system enters a regulated state, right? And from
Mhm.
that regulated state, right, we get to expand, right? And go and kind of titrate, right? Like go a little bit out
That's
and then
right.
kind of a little bit back and then a little bit
Yeah.
out and then it's here and then
Yeah.
the set point keeps moving, it keeps
Mhm.
expanding, right? And we show ourselves that we can handle anything, right? And again,
Mhm.
having this tool in your back pocket, it's like I know I can take on the world, right? Because
Yeah.
the only thing standing in the way are my feelings, which are creating my thoughts, right? And my
Mhm.
beliefs. And so that's, also the other thing that I love about it is you get to brainwash yourself, right?
Yep.
Like I used to be like, oh, affirmations and all of that stuff. And it's like, I don't know. Like I have heavy trauma, right? I have heavy
Yeah.
trauma. I can't just believe like, oh, it's safe for me to relax and let go,
Yeah.
right? As
No.
someone who grew up, right, in really adverse conditions, right? It's like, I need to control the situation, right? I need
Mm.
to chase, I need to grip, I need to control this, right?
That's
And
right.
so, like, I was
Mhm.
very stuck in the masculine kind of energy, right? Which is all of that. And then basically like allowing myself to let go and be in the feminine, right?
Yeah.
Go kind of go with the flow and surrender and receive and believe that I will receive without the chasing, right? And all of this stuff. It's like,
Right.
what are you talking about? Like I can relax and make money. No, I need to keep working. I need to keep doing more. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that it just doesn't make sense. And
Mhm.
so I got to brainwash myself, right? And basically, like through that repetition, right? And through the tapping, and along with mirror work, which I love so much, like the
Mhm.
blending all of that, right? Like sitting in front of the mirror, looking at yourself, and then telling yourself, like, you already handled all of this, blah, blah, blah,
Mm.
right? And you are this powerful and you can handle all of this. And, whatever it is, like you've already done so much. You
Yep.
can lean on that and just receive. Like you don't need to do more, you've done enough, et cetera, et cetera. Like you get to brainwash yourself into that and actually start to see it, start to believe it, right? Because
Mhm.
our mind always wants to focus on the negative, right? The reticular activating system in our mind always wants to focus on the threats first, right?
Yeah.
And we got to retrain it to focus on the positive stuff, to focus
Right.
on everything that we have done, everything that is going good for us, right? And so through the tapping, I personally like basically brainwash myself into every affirmation that I wanted for myself, right? Like I am a magnet, right, for all the good things. I'm a lucky person. I get to relax. I've done enough, etc. And so that's another huge benefit of it. It's not just going through that process and clearing
Mhm.
emotions, right? But it's also like taking in, right? And kind of putting into yourself certain
Yep.
things that you want to believe, and through that, basically changing your self concept,
Yeah.
changing how you see yourself, what you believe, what you think, what you feel, and through that, like for all of us manifestation geeks here, right? Like the
Yep.
identity, right? It's be, do, have,
Yep.
right? So we got to
Everything.
be. So how do we be the person who gets to have all of that? How do we be the magnet, right? How do we be relaxed and abundant, right?
Mhm.
And let's clear away the bullshit. Let's clear away the emotions. Let's clear away their limiting beliefs, right? And then let's also brainwash ourselves into all of the
Yeah.
positive stuff, right? And so it's like it becomes so much easier to believe all of that when you're tapping on it,
Mhm.
regulating your nervous system, repeating it, and also looking at yourself in your eyes, right? And it's like it's all in one and it's so powerful, right?
It is. It is, absolutely. And, the thing that I love about it most and when I was first in the beginning of it, I built a lot of trust just by researching it, and understanding, like, the mechanics of, okay, what's happening? Why is it happening? Why is this working? And it really kinda reinforced for me that when you talk about brainwashing, you're literally rewiring your brain as you
Mhm.
tap. Like, it's doing that. It's changing the structure of your brain. And so you are creating permanent changes. It's just that some old patterns, if you're not consistent with it, that's why consistency is key, especially if you're trying to reprogram your subconscious mind. Consistency is key because those old patterns have been chosen, subconsciously chosen, consciously chosen so many times. You kinda gotta come at it with that same momentum and that same energy. But the tapping makes it a lot easier because the tapping is doing a lot of that under that invisible work that you can't normally just do just by writing an affirmation down. You know, it's processing the resistance to it, which you have to do anyway. Because like, if you that's the thing with tapping, if you most of the time, most people, you can't just start out with, "I'm a money magnet," or "I'm this and that." You gotta start with that tension that comes up when you say that affirmation. When you say, "I'm a magnet to money," or "I can relax. It's safe for me to receive and rest," and whatever. You have to deal with that tension that comes up when you say it that says, "No, you can't. No, you can't. No, 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 and here's why." So as you tap, you're moving through that, and then it clears up that space where you can actually feel it. You can literally feel what you're saying because you realize there's nothing wrong or unsafe about me actually affirming this with myself. In fact, most of the time, I feel like you find that there's a landing place for it inside of you that was hidden by the fear. And it's like, so I think for me, it used to be a little overwhelming to think I got to convince myself of all these things.
Mm.
But just from all the tapping I've done, I've learned you don't actually have to convince yourself. You start to understand that that just makes sense. The more positive perspective, it just makes more sense because
Mm.
as you tap, you realize how fleeting and like weak those negative thoughts really were. But when you're in them prior to tapping, it's hard to, they
Yeah.
seem life or death, like law.
Exactly. And it's also like our brain is lying to us, right? It's not
Yeah.
showing us the full truth,
Yes.
right? And like just like, for example, that example that I gave with, the masculine and feminine and like the controlling and the
Hmm.
relaxing, right? And like I get to receive, I get to manifest, I get to call in things, I
Yep.
get to be a magnet, right? Like affirming on that, it's like, oh, I get to relax and receive, in the beginning, it's like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
But as you start to repeat it, right? As you start to do it every day, and you have a desire, right, to convince yourself of that, your brain starts to conjure things that are true that support that, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I can rest and receive, right? I've done enough. Now it's time for me to reap the rewards. It's like, yeah. And then it starts bringing up all of these things like, oh, you've done this and you've done that and you
Yeah.
have this and you have that. And it's like, oh my God, I was forgetting. I was not looking at those
Yep.
things. All I was looking at was what was missing, what else needs to get done, and all of that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right? Lack, 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 right? Instead of everything that I already have and how abundant I already am and how many avenues I've created for growth, for money, clients, opportunities, like everything, right? And finally, like through the process, you get to see the full truth, not
Yep.
just one aspect of it that your reticular activating system wants to focus on, right? And it's usually the negative stuff because your nervous system is dysregulated and thus in a state of looking for threats and thus focusing
Yeah.
on lack, right? And so regulate that nervous system through the tapping. Remind yourself of everything good through the voicing out and the tapping, right? And you get to actually open up. It's not like you're starting to just, believe something incredible that you could never believe. It's like you start to find
Mm.
all of the ways that it actually already is true,
Yep.
right? So
Mhm.
it's beautiful to go through that process and to literally like see your brain working in your favor,
Oh
right? And
gosh, yes.
working to convince its own self. It's like, oh
Yes.
yeah, this is safe. Like, yeah, I get to do this. And like, oh yeah,
Ah,
I get to say this to
beautiful.
this person or take this action and nothing bad is gonna happen. Or if it like sometimes that's not true. Bad things absolutely can happen. We're not like, being delusional here or ignoring the truth, right? It's like if it does happen, I can see how I can manage that. I can
Yeah.
see how I can respond to that. I can see the avenues, the options that I have, right? So it's not like we're lying to ourselves, right? And being delusional. It's like we're being honest. And then we're working with what we have, right? And if sometimes something is missing, then finally, because you are regulated, right? You're not in this basically functional freeze that the majority population is in, right? You get to take action because that's one of the things that I want everyone to also know is that the majority of us are really stuck in functional freeze. Google it, look it up. We're not going to dive into that right now, but all in all, your nervous system is kind of, keeping you in a state where you're like, I'm going to do the daily actions that I need to do, right? The bare minimum. But when I think about doing something more, right? Taking a little bit more action, right? Or whatever it is, it's like, I can't, right? And you're frozen and you're procrastinating. That's where procrastination comes for a lot of
Mm,
us, right? And so when we relax that nervous system, when we regulate that nervous system, when we get out of that functional freeze, it's like, now I can also take action, right? Not only do I believe that everything's going to be okay or that I can manage whatever happens, right? But I also get to move forward instead of just like, I have the idea, I have the plan, I have the
yep,
strategy, but I'm frozen, right? I'm
yep,
not moving, I'm procrastinating, and then you feel shame for procrastinating and all of that. Do not shame yourself for anything. Like
yeah,
that also is like the bane of our existence. Is like we love to shame ourselves. It's like, no, that's where self-love really comes in. It's like, yeah, I want to procrastinate right now. And instead of shaming myself for that, I'm going to be like, why? Right? Why am I doing that? What is it about taking this action that is overwhelming me, making me anxious, making me fearful, whatever it is? And now I can go in and I can work with that. I can tap on that and clear that away and actually through the process understand myself, right?
mhm,
And liberate myself and then move. And then as you said, right, like what happens after some sessions, it's like it's different stuff. In some sessions, you feel like kind of wrung out. Like it's
yep,
those sessions where, you were clearing the, some fears or traumas and deeper emotions, right? Where you cry it out and you feel like,
mhm,
oh, I've let go of this big weight, right?
yep,
But in other things, like for example, anger is such a motivating emotion. It is
yeah,
such an empowering emotion. After you tap on anger, right? Usually clients go and like me included, right? It's like the energy surge is there because all of this suppressed, right? Like anger that was here, you kind of like unleash it, but like not in a safe way, not like I'm unleashing anger. You're unleashing this energy, but in a healthy way. And so
yeah,
now you feel motivated to go change your life, change this relationship, change this communication, whatever it is. You have this energy that you now want to use to move forward in a healthy way, right? Same goes for like procrastination and motivation, right? It's like I was procrastinating on this thing because of this, this, and this. But now that I released all of that, right? Everything that I was suppressing, it's like the energy is there. And I'm like, oh my
mhm,
God, this is not so hard. This is not so overwhelming. I get to do this.
yeah,
Like I've done things harder than this before. Like, let's go, let's move. And this natural surge of energy comes forward and you can fly. I mean, it's
yeah. It's kinda like
great.
also if you just ask yourself, like, "What am I protecting myself from right now? Like, what am I scared of?" Like, "Okay." And I think some people don't wanna admit that they're afraid. It's
Mm,
so there's something about that, and I kinda get it, there's something about it, but I guess I've done it so long now that it's like, it seems silly not to me. It's like, just
mm,
let's go right to the heart of it, okay? Because if we're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever, our nervous system is trying to protect us from something. That's point blank, that's what we're doing.
yeah.
We're in self-protection mode. Okay, so then what is the solution to that? Safety. Safety.
Mhm.
That's like it doesn't have to be more complicated than that most of the time. You can work out the nuances of it. You can work out the sticky thoughts and the beliefs and stuff like that through the tapping. But just by doing the tapping, you are giving your body a reason to put its guard down. And that
Mhm,
exactly like you said, that's when that energy starts to flow. Because I used to call myself the procrastination queen. My God,
mhm,
I would have idea after idea and I would never act on it ever, ever. My goodness gracious, it was so frustrating. And I beat myself up for it over and over again because I never realized my nervous system just doesn't feel safe. My body doesn't feel safe. And it might have something to do with the action that I want to take. It might not. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is my job, and I feel like this is our collective evolution that we're moving into to take it a little bit bigger than us individually. Starts individually, but I feel like the collective evolution is taking responsibility for our emotional health, taking responsibility for our sense of safety and using whatever we can to let go of all the reasons why we can't feel safe, why we can't take action, why we can't do this, why I can't set this boundary, why I can't blah blah blah. Put the bullshit down with love. It's all bullshit. At the end of the day, it is. If it's authentic and true for you, all you gotta do is create the safe environment within yourself to be able to take the next step to get you to
mhm.
that point. It really comes down to safety, I think, beyond everything. Whether if it's anger
Absolutely.
expressing, fear or sadness, depression, like there's something in you that's needs feels like it needs to be protected in this moment.
Mhm.
And that's why I love it. That's why I love tapping so much because
Mm.
it clears that out in like
Mhm.
minutes a lot of the time. It's unreal. And yeah, like we've said, you come out feeling like a totally different person and you're like, I didn't know this was in here. I didn't
Mhm.
know. Oh, I've surprised myself so many times since I started really tapping seriously. Crazy.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
It's yeah, pure magic, pure
Yeah,
magic. That's why we're so in love with it. I mean,
it really is.
yeah, I don't know, like, and especially as you said, like, this is the time really, and I feel when I really got into kind of coaching and the beginning of my journey some 7, maybe 8 years ago now, um, it wasn't a lot of information, right, around all of this. Like, it
Mhm,
was maybe in the last 5 years that people really started talking about it a lot, and it was
mhm.
in the last 3 years that really people started talking about the nervous system, right, and
Yeah.
working with the nervous system, and that kinda got into, let's say, the mainstream. Not really mainstream, but, self-development mainstream, right? And, with that, it's like we are finally realizing how important our emotions are and how learning how to work with the emotions, clear emotions, right? And be a master of our emotions instead of our emotions, running us like a puppet.
Yep.
Like that really is the key to everything. If you can be a master of your emotions, you've liberated yourself to do anything you want
Mhm,
in life. Like emotions and the nervous
mhm.
system are the core, right? And the mindset, it's like everything, the full bottom up approach. And like we said in the beginning, that's why we love EFT. It's a psychosomatic
Yeah.
approach, works both on the body and the mind, the nervous system, right? And the subconscious, right? And the emotions. It's like full shebang.
Yep.
So like everything, we got it all there. It seems simple, deceivingly simple, but that's why it's so beautiful. It's so powerful, right? And it's such an incredible, technique to have in your back pocket at any time. And especially now, right, with the global events and everything, like we
Yes.
need to regulate ourselves. We need to
Yes.
really like get out of panic mode and fear-based action, right? And not react to things, but respond, right, from that
Mhm.
stable state, right? And EFT gives us the ability to do exactly that, right? To,
Right.
as we said in this live in itself, it's like we you have to clear the fears, clear the emotions, and actually make the best decisions, right? Because again, the nervous system is not dysregulated, and thus it's resourceful and everything is online, right? Instead of
Yep.
just the fight or flight system being turned on. And the emotions are out of the way, so we get to have that clear objective thinking, and we get to see far instead of just like that, kind of limited point of view that our fears, and whatever emotions put us into. So it's just so powerful, man. Oh,
Yeah.
we
I mean,
love
that
it. We're so in love.
yeah, I mean, that's like even if you look at, everyday relationships, how many arguments have people gotten into because they were so freaking dysregulated and just didn't even realize that was what the problem was. It's not so much what they said or what they did. Yeah, those things need to be addressed, but there's a way to address things. There's a way to communicate differences and set boundaries that doesn't have to demean you or the person. You don't have to step outside of yourself. You can be uncomfortable and still be safe and handle it with grace. And I feel like that's what most of us want. And so many of us blow things up because we don't realize I just needed to take a minute and like feel my
Mhm,
feelings. I needed
mhm,
to go and understand myself because a lot of the times we think we're fighting because of what someone says or how they treat us. But really, like, I feel like we're fighting for our safety, our validation, to be valued and seen in those moments. And it's like, you don't need to do that. You need to give that to yourself. That's where it needs to
mhm,
come from. That's where the source of pain is. It's because we're putting that in someone else's hands, or we're putting that in the government's hands, or, in this situation's hands. We're outsourcing that. And that's the source of pain. It's not
mhm,
necessarily this out here, it's
mhm.
the relationship in here. And,
Exactly.
I've learned that just from being curious about why am I not feeling resolution, even though we had a conversation, even though there was an apology, even though this thing is over here and can't really like, why can't I find resolution? Oh, because I'm not giving that to myself. I'm not seeing me. I'm not being compassionate with me. I'm still in the back of my mind judging. And, we talked about fear of judgment. I feel like one of the most helpful things, and you can blend this in with EFT, I feel like that's where it really becomes potent and it changes the way you think about it. But I think it's important to recognize that a lot of the times we're afraid of something because we're already doing it inside of us. It's already happening. Like if I'm afraid, if I go out there and I post this thing, I mean, trust me, I've moved through all this stuff myself. If I say this thing in that way, somebody's gonna get mad about it. And it's like, they're gonna say something mean to me, and I don't wanna deal with that. Why? Because it's already alive inside of me. There's already a landing place in here, and I'm not dealing with it. I'm avoiding it. So that's why I'm not saying what I need to say. That's why I'm not setting the boundary because I'm avoiding whatever that experience is. So when you address it yourself, when you go within and you just be with what is happening, with what is most alive with you, and you're honest with yourself, and you just between you know, and you're tapping through it, you're working with your body, that puts all that power back inside of you. It takes it out of that person's hands. It takes it and that's where so many fears start to go away. That's when it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, I'm just gonna say the damn thing. I'm gonna set that boundary. I'm gonna block that person. You know what? I'm done. Okay, I'm good." That's where all that strength
Mhm.
starts to come from because you gave it to
Yes.
yourself. You showed up for you.
Exactly. You clear those emotions that were standing in the way, the dysregulation, the whatever it was that was
Yeah.
making you make the bad decisions, right? Or
Yeah.
react
Yeah.
instead of respond and all of it. And now that you're in that emotional neutrality,
Mm.
right, you get to make the best possible moves and you get to
That
actually listen to your honest truth, right? And not respond from fear. Like, oh, so many people are talking about relationships, right? Like, don't want to end a relationship because of this fear of like, or kinda like, "Oh my god, how am I gonna find another person? And maybe this one is good enough," and like, blah, 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 blah.
mm,
And it's like, "No, no, no, no,
mm,
no, no."
mhm.
After you process whatever is going on, you're either gonna hear, whatever is the truth, right? You're either gonna hear, "Yeah, I still wanna be in this, but all of this needs to change, and let's see if that's realistic," or, "Yeah, it's actually time to leave this,"
Yep.
right? And I feel like it's very connected, the relationships that we have with our clients.
Mhm.
I personally I had anxious attachment. And so like when I learned about attachment theory and anxious attachment and all of that, I was like, okay, how do I step into secure attachment? Right.
Mm,
And it was EFT basically, right? I worked on other things. I didn't specifically work on just that anxious
mhm.
attachment for relationships, right? But like I was working on so many things for moving myself forward in my business, right? And through that, basically, stepped into secure attachment and like this relationship dynamic like manifests with our clients. Oh,
Mm.
someone is not super happy, anxious attachment. Oh my God, what can I do? And then
Yeah.
you overwork and you like
Yep.
overgive and like so many, you do so many things, right? And or they didn't respond to my message. Oh my God, do they hate me? Are they going to go and, talk shit about me on Reddit or whatever? Like there's so much panic that goes on inside of us, right? When you have anxious
Yep.
attachment, for example, right? And so we need to clear that. And again, EFT tapping with its clearing of all of the emotions helps you really also kind of, step into that secure attachment and shift your
100%.
relationships as well. Like it's just a
100%.
ripple effect, like just a full on ripple effect.
Yeah, what's that saying that what you do in one part of your life, you probably do in every part of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, you address it in this moment when this is happening, there's gonna be a ripple effect, 100%. And it's
Absolutely.
sneaky too. I wanna say that real quick. EFT is sneaky. Like, sometimes you tap through something and you end it feeling really relaxed, like, "Okay, cool." You burped a little, yawned a little,
Mhm.
which, by the way, is all release, all of it's
Healthy.
the emotion
Yeah.
processing. And then days later or weeks later, a situation occurs and, "Oh, look, it doesn't even bother you the same way." And you're like, "Oh, I'm just"
Hmm.
you don't even notice half the time because your
Yeah.
brain just changed. It was rewired in that
Exactly.
process of tapping, and you're like, "Oh, good.
Exactly.
Okay. Alright, I'm
Yeah,
good
and
with
then
this."
retroactively, you see, right? Like, as you're
Yeah.
journaling in the evening or a couple of days
Yeah.
later, you're like, "Wait, I handled this differently. Why? Oh my
Yeah.
god, lo and behold, start
Yeah.
doing the work and it rippled out into everything."
Exactly.
God bless.
Yeah.
God bless. I mean, this was such a great conversation, Hannah. I think we're gonna have to have
Yeah.
another one. We'll stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. Um, Thank you, Hannah, for an amazing conversation. I think we shared a bunch of amazing stuff with everyone here. Guys, go follow Hannah. I'm going to publish this as a blog later on. She's going to publish it on her Substack as well. But I'll leave the link below in the blog. You go and check out all her posts, everything that she's got going on. And if you want to try out EFT, go over to Hannah, talk to her, let her know what's standing in your way. She'll help you out. And if you're an entrepreneur looking to grow your business, visibility, income, everything, come over to me and let's use some EFT and clear away everything that's standing in your way. Really becoming a sought after leader in your space. So that's that. Thank you, Hannah, once more for this wonderful
Yeah.
conversation.
Thank you for
Uh,
having me. I appreciate it. This was fun.
it's a pleasure. Absolutely. For your first live, I think this we broke the ice like
Yeah.
in a beautiful way.
Yeah, it was perfect. I'm always down to talk about EFT anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime, any place.
So I have a hunch you'll be back on. So thank you guys for being with us. I'll see you next week. Until then, stay blessed. Bye.